Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with another One Sheet Wonder. This is One Sheet Wonder number 24. It was featured in a previous 6x6 paper pad tutorial, so you may have seen it before and I did share it previously, but I wanted to create its own video just in case there are people who don't want to watch those paper pad tutorials but do like receiving the One Sheet Wonder ideas. Ahead of time, I knew I wanted to use this snowflake die. This is an exclusive from scrapbook.com, and it's one of those dies that I can easily highly recommend because it is so simple and it gives this it cuts really well. It's not like too intricate. And it gives you this like pretty substantial element on a card. I've actually used it on previous One Sheet Wonders because I like it so much. And I thought this will give me something to really draw in and focus the attention of the card. So I also decided that I wanted to use the Christmas Traditions Spellbinders paper pad because I had used some of it previously, and a lot of times I'll try to use a paper pad all in one go, but with this one I had to use some of it for a different One Sheet Wonder, and I think I'm going to feature it in even another One Sheet Wonder because it is a really pretty paper collection. So I want to still make sure I use it, but I'm not going to use it in one big video. I picked out this pink and red pattern paper, and I'm going to do a kind of monochromatic thing with my card. I do like a lot of high contrast, so this is a little bit different for me, but I just, wanted to mix it up, and I really liked the way these colors worked out. I cut all of the pattern paper according to the PDF that you can download. So in the video description, there'll be a link to my website where you can download this PDF, and it says, cut here, cut there, and then it shows you a sketch. So I'll do all of that today, but you don't have to pay attention to the measurements. It's there for you to download. But basically I cut 2 3x3 squares, 2 strips that are 5 by 1.5, and then you're left with these 2 little scraps that are 1 by 1.5, and they create this little kind of flag piece that's going to go underneath the 3x3 square. My One Sheet Wonders are maybe a little bit different than you've seen in the past because they'll show you one sheet and it will make like a couple different cards. But the way I like to design them is that you can cut them and then it makes the same card more than once. So in this case, it makes 2 of the same card, but sometimes I'll make 3 or 4 or something like that. All right, moving on. I did also, one of the reasons I chose to use just one piece of pattern paper here is because a lot of times I will use double-sided paper because I like to mix up my colors or patterns, or I will use 2 sheets of pattern paper and then I will use some of it for one element and some of it for another. So like if I cut a green sheet and a yellow sheet and I put them together. But then it doubles the amount of cards you make, which is totally fine. But it kind of gets away a little bit from the idea of a true One Sheet Wonder. So here I'm using single-sided paper and I'm using one piece and showing you that it still works. You can totally do this. It's just, I do want to open it up to the creativity. And I do hear comments occasionally, and totally fine. Everyone can think whatever they want of these. I just am trying to share with you the way that I enjoy card making. There's not a lot of creativity in these One Sheet Wonders. You just follow the directions and cut them out. Well, to me, a lot of the creativity comes in how you're going to choose to embellish them, what papers you're going to mix, what patterns will go together, or like how you're going to maybe add different colors, like pops of color with your mats. Like there is still plenty of room for creativity, but to me, this is a really solid jumping off point. And also, there are some people who just want to make a card and they don't want to have to think about it. Like they want to be able to follow exactly what someone else is doing, and that's cool too. So I think there's as much or as little creativity in the process as you want it to be. But either way, I just hope that some of you guys enjoy these, these resources that I'm providing. And I just want to encourage others to have fun card making and actually make cards too, because we can do a lot of supply collecting. But anyway, off my rant there. I'm assembling everything, and one of the challenges was that because these are being layered up so much, they would look a little uneven. So what I'm choosing to do here is I am cutting some pieces of scrap cardstock that I used to cut out my snowflake, and I'm using them to kind of prop up my layers. So I want my square to be flat even when it's popped up, or sorry, even when it's placed on top of the stripe or the card base, which are, slightly different layers there. So if I add some cardstock like shims of sorts, it will make everything kind of seem like it's one flat layer and it won't be all lumpy and bumpy. So I'm just kind of tearing up and cutting up little scraps to make that happen. Once I have my general pattern, like the sketch assembled the way that I like it, and I did like that this pattern paper meant that even though it was all the same pattern, by kind of turning them in different ways, the stripes went in slightly different ways, and they didn't all like line up perfectly, and I thought that looked cool. But here I'm going to cut out 3 of these snowflakes. 1 out of the red foil paper because foil and glitter look great at Christmas. I try not to, and I haven't purchased any more foil and glitter in a while because they are not recyclable the same way as other supplies. And I do lean towards making my cards such that they could be recycled in the future. So I like to be a little bit more like eco-friendly of sorts with my crafting. But anyway, I cut the next 2 layers out of solid cardstock. The solid cardstock, I chose red to match up with the snowflake and so that things would look really great from the side, but you could totally use white. It's not a big deal. You just might notice the white layers underneath if you're doing a colored cardstock on top. So if you want a really consistent look, pick the same color and just make the top layer the foil or fancy of whatever you want to do. What I love about this die is it comes with this sentiment strip. So I cut one out of a scrap piece of cardstock and I put some tape behind it such that the sticky part of the tape is sticking through the hole. And that allows me to fit my sentiment strip into it and stamp it down perfectly and straight, even with having to, and I don't have to fuss with this little tiny sentiment in my MISTI or wherever, this little sentiment strip. So I'm able to stamp things down a little bit more straight. And I do have a video where I talk about that template that I make, and I have it for all the banners in my stash because I find it so useful. Next up, you could stop right there. So I had the snowflake. It says warm winter wishes. Done. Beautiful card. But I like coloring critters, so I'm going to add some critters. And I like using more of my supplies. And I know not everyone does though, so if you like it that way, you can be done with the video. Here, I'm going to color these alpacas from the Sunny Studio Alpaca Holiday stamp set. I'm just going to show you coloring the alpaca because I think I have something semi-interesting to say about how I do this. I like to make it look like the alpaca has curly fur. So in order to achieve that look, I am coloring little circles all over the alpaca. I mean, they're not complete circles. I'm trying to make it look like curls, but I'm using a circle motion, and it's a very, very light touch. I am using the E5 series of Copic markers, but basically it's technically in the brown family, but it's this yellowy brown that reminds me of the color that I see of alpacas. They're not very white, and even still, it's really hard to color something so that it looks pure white. And that's why I kind of go with this little bit of tan color, but very, very light touch is important in trying to create those little C's or circles. I will also use a similar technique when I'm trying to color curly hair. And I went with the darkest, the middle, and then the very lightest color. I used E5, 3, 5, 1, and 5, 0 there. For the alpaca's scarf, the reason I chose this particular alpaca from the stamp set is because this scarf gave me an opportunity to mimic the stripes in the background of the paper. And so I picked a dark red, a sort of medium orangey red, and then a pink color because there is some pink in the pattern paper. Actually, the pattern paper is mostly pink, but then there's these orangey red stripes, and then the mat that I chose and the snowflake that I used are more of a darker red. So again, I'm just kind of pulling in all of those colors, and it was an easy way to do that. I decided to fussy cut my image. I don't really do that very often, but I just to bring out the ScanNCut to cut like 2 things was just, I wasn't feeling it that day. But you can totally get coordinating dies. However, if you do fussy cut, and I fussy cut right on the black line, I did have to cut off the little fringe on his scarf. And I like to take a brush tip marker and draw around the edges very gently, carefully, so that the white edge that is exposed by cutting with your scissor is covered up, and it just makes it look a tiny bit more professional. Maybe not as professional, or whatever the right word for that is, as like cutting it with a die, but it helps. And so that's what I tend to do. And I glue it on with my Bearly Art glue. I'm going to use my pressure tool to help me push things down here, just because it like gives you a wider surface than your hand does, and I don't have to like get anything from my sticky hands on there or whatever. Anyway, that is it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment or share this video. If you'd like to see more videos about how to use your supplies, such as One Sheet Wonder tutorials, please subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. I will link all the products I can in the video description and link you to my blog where you can download any templates or get more information. For even more inspiration, come find me on Pinterest or check out these 2 videos here at the end. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day.